comrades. It's Premier River, and I am back again at the Motor Speedway. Except now it's not a motor speedway; it's becoming a farm speedway, or something like that. Either that, or you can picture two rival brothers fighting over who's the better farmer, right? In any event, there's been a debate, and I don't really know the answer to it. So this is one of the reasons I come here. And since the last episode, and even before then, the last, not episode, but the last test we did where we kind of determined that the bigger fields were, the better ones, certainly pretty close to the medium fields. But one of the other things that, has come up and I really didn't want to deal with, because if you get too many tests going at once, it's hard to prove anything, right? But the question would be, are you better off with which number of vehicles? And this gets into some similar kinds of issues that you have. This farm is a 3-5-3-4 farm, meaning it has 3 tractors, 5 harvesters, and 4 trucks, right? And when we've talked about it and I've seen other people, they tend to do it this way, and it makes sense. If you have a hard time remembering what 3, 5, 4 would be, just think of it, that's the order it would go in, right? Sowing, harvesting, and then taking the crops off the field with the trucks, 3, 5, 4. I generally run with a 4, 4, 4. And my attitude is I would rather have that extra tractor to make sure the fields are always sown, right? So in other words, do you get into a situation with the 3-5-4 where you don't sow all the fields? Now, this is a pretty ideal farm layout. Keep that in mind too, because that will affect the overall test. I mean, if your fields are all over the place, you're going to have to adjust for the fact, you might not be able to get away with running 5 harvesters because it takes your tractors longer to get out there, and that's why you don't get them all sown in time, right? So I think the tractors, we'd probably have to go here. And it's good that we go here anyway. Let's go. Yeah, let me just look at the harvester. Of course, it's an American harvester. So I got the harvesters that we have are the CL Matador. Now, there's reasons I didn't pick this CL Dom 8085. It's because you wouldn't be able to get it to 1970. This CL Matador you could get in 1950 to 1971. So I thought that was a little bit fair, and it's really not that much difference. And the other reason I did that is because if we come over back to here and go to the tractor, I also got a tractor, this one that you could buy in 1963, the sower. This guy's only speed level 17 here. This is the one you could get in 1950. And I think a lot of people, the reason I say that is because for a lot of people, getting agriculture going early is a really big thing, right? It's not something you're waiting until the 1990s probably to do in your game. So this one, at least you could get it in 1963. It's speed level 24, which isn't that much slower than this one. These two are a little bit faster, but not some huge amount. And then this one's the same speed here, and you can get that one in 1969 till current. So you could argue, well, if you did it different, you're giving the tractors a disadvantage. Well, I also picked a harvester that was a little slower, and this tractor you can't get until 1985. So I think it's completely legitimate to say, now you might be starting in 1985, fine, whatever, but I'm going to assume that you might start in the 1960, I think it's 1960, 70, or 80, right? So in any event, that's a kind of a later model tractor. So this is why I got that, which is why I stepped down the harvester a little bit so that the ratio would be kind of relative, if that makes sense. So, let's see what happens. If there's a really close call, we can debate forever, but if it's that close between the two different farm setup, then what I would say is, well, you're going to have issues with arguments about layout efficiency then too, right? Because if your farm's not perfectly laid out or laid out exactly like these are, well, then maybe the 444 is better. And, if it's that tight a race, I don't know, does it really make that much difference to you which one is better? Let's see. Maybe the 3-4, maybe we'll have a clear winner. Maybe we won't. I really honestly don't know. I think, like I said, I run with the 4-4-4. Always make sure you have a field sown. 354. Always make sure you get the fields harvested. Just a different perspective. Now, these tests takes ridiculously long. So I am going to just leave it like in this position. I will open up each of these. And we'll do like we did the last time mostly. Hopefully you guys can see all of the writing and whatnot, right? I'm not sure, but I'm doing the best I can for you. And we'll just sort of see what they do with the fields. One thing to note is I did actually make very careful sure, if that makes sense. I selected all the fields in the same way. Let's just shrink these for a second. If you noticed, at one point I forgot that I was playing time because I was playing time just to like let the roads build and all that kind of stuff. I do want to do one last check, make sure. Well, anyway, I forgot I was playing time and the tractors went out there. But I did notice that the order that I selected them in, I went from here up and then from here up. And I went from here up and then, so they're both identical, right? 1, 2, like I assigned them myself. They seem to have done it in the same order. This one I deleted just to be even with this one, if that makes sense. That's just how I try to make it as even as I can. But just keep that in mind. It might make a difference which order these things are in. So I'm kind of curious now. Is it just a go search from here and you know what I mean? They're doing a search pattern, or I would think, I'm forgetting, okay, which one's this one? This is, yeah, see this, I'm wondering if they're not going to pick up right here because that's the first one on each list. So be curious, like, so keep an eye out for that as we move forward. As a matter of fact, you know what, let's start the test. It's March 3rd if you're worried about how long. And I'm just going to let this test run probably at least 6 months. So what's that? March, April, May, June, July, August, September. So maybe around the beginning of September, we'll stop it and just sort of see who has more crops. The other thing I can do, here, we'll shrink this again. Let me just get started real quick. All right, here we go. Start. Enough talking, right? Like I said, I'm going to record, but I'm also going to just fast forward. Yep, so we see tractors going out. Oh, by the way, they also have the same amount of fuel, though I'm really... From the last test, the amount of fuel is just almost insignificant, in my opinion. Yeah, look at that. They're doing it in the order that you selected them in. That's very interesting. They're not actually doing a search pattern. Yeah, because look, this guy has 4. Now see here, by the way, this is the advantage to the 444. Because you're already out there getting another field harvested, right? The question is when you get into steady state, do you end up with an extra, like you never are sowing 4 fields, right? But see, at this point, we're now sowing that 4th field where this one isn't. But that's interesting that the order that you select them in, I'm wondering if that's not a total priority. I'm going to keep my eye on that because you would be better off selecting the fields that were closer, right? That's interesting. Well, we'll see. Okay. I might even watch the replay myself of the thing. But usually when I'm fast forwarding, I don't bother. My biggest concern is that I say or do something silly. It's my reason for rewatching it. All right, can we get far enough away that this is all kind of a mess? It's just one of those, I'm not sure how well you guys could see that. I don't know if we're better off. I think we're better off with the numbers so that we could see the numbers. I know I can see these like when I watch it on YouTube. So, I mean, it's not the most clear thing in the world, but, I can see it usually. All right, well, anyway, here we go. So we'll see how we make out, and I will be back in a while, and we'll just see how it goes. See, oh, wait, I know what we can do. Yeah, this is the last grain storage in the line over there and over here. So as this fills up, you'll know who's leading, and then this will get all the way filled, and it'll start filling the next one. So I have little trucks just moving them over. Okay, guys, I'll be quiet, and we'll fast forward a while, and we'll talk about results. figured I would stop fast forwarding time for a minute to just show you where we're at. And again, hopefully you guys can see the numbers, but we are harvesting 4 fields over here on the 444, and we're only harvesting 3 over on this side, right? So it took quite a while longer to get all these fields planted, if you didn't notice that. And now we're going to probably jump pretty far ahead on the 444 farm, right? Just because they're going to constantly be doing 4 fields while these guys are only going to have 3 fields to harvest, which again, they have 5 harvesters at this point, but at some point there's going to become and actually if you look now, it might even be that, look, 5 of these fields are growing 100%. So at some point these guys are going to catch back up, and then we're going to get into this back and forth of, what is the best one? So we'll see what happens. Yeah, because I'm looking here, it says a couple other ones are 100% grown. Oh, yeah, look at that. So they should be sending out more harvesters to harvest these fields. Why aren't they? Or aren't they? Or they are, and they're just, they're just not out there yet. So yeah, so these guys should real quickly catch up because they did get those extra fields sown pretty quickly. So yeah, it's definitely looking, I don't know, if I had to stop right now, even though these guys are slightly ahead on our capacity here, I have a feeling that these guys are going to catch up pretty quickly. The real question comes down to, can these guys do all the sowing that they need to do to keep all the fields going? And can these guys, the fact that these guys are always going to have the next thing to harvest, will that make the difference? All right, well, we will find out. See you guys soon. Look, guys, I think it's pretty clear what's happening here. And while it's not the biggest massive difference over time, it certainly will add up. And there's 14 fields here, by the way. I think if you have less fields, this difference would make less of a difference. And getting 14 big fields in is an accomplishment, trust me. This is a pretty big area. I mean, you can do it. Obviously, I got 2 of them here. So if you had more fields, you know, I think eventually you'd run out of things to do. But I will say this, that, you know, like these guys are staying busy. And for the most part, there's some little slight times that these 3 tractors don't keep up with doing the 5 fields. Like, in other words, these guys are harvesting 5 fields. So these 3 have to harvest the 5. Like, see right now, these guys won't be done, but it looks like these guys might be done ahead of them, if that makes sense. But it's such a little difference there that really these guys are they're staying. This is a good balance. Now, the other question you have is, are they getting all the crops off the field? Now, if they're not, I'll say this. They're still getting more crops off the field. Now, that's in the middle of harvesting. So for the fields that have already been harvested so far, yes, there's not an issue. Now, I would say a little bit of caution would be, you know, if your layout isn't as pretty as this one, that could cause other problems. But I think I'll be switching to 3-5-4 myself because it does seem to work, right? So, yeah, it's pretty clear that they're getting more crops because they're just running 5 instead of 4 harvesters. So I'd expect, you know, in the neighborhood of 20% more crops in the long run. Now, these guys got out to a little bit of a head start, so that's why it's probably not 20% at this point. But I bet you in the long run, it will be. Maybe a little bit less because these guys aren't always sowing a field, right? There's this little gap once in a while, but there you go. Well, that's my thoughts on it. I'm going to keep the talking a little bit shorter this week, and you've seen the results of the test. I hope you've enjoyed it. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.